How to create the newsletter subscriber plugin. So as you can see in the widget section, I'm going to add a widget, and that will allow to have the details of the newsletter. So if I show you, let me refresh the page. Now if you see, we have title. If you wish to change the title will be reflected on the front end. I'm adding subscribe your newsletter. Fine. And the recipient, and once the customer types a name and email, this email will be will go to this website, which is recipient. Now if I save, now I'm on the front end. You can see the title is over here, subscribe your newsletter. Actually it should be subscribe to our newsletter, and that's all right. This is just for a demonstration purpose. And we have name and we have email and validation as well. If I type just name or just email, it is going to say fill out all fields. And now if you click on subscribe, the mail will be sent. At present I'm using localhost, so the mail will not go, but if you're in live server, this would definitely work. Fine. Now the first thing, we are going to create the folder structure, and this is a third plugin which we are creating. Now if you see, this is what we need to do in this video. So we need to show the plugin in the plugin page, and this is a demo. Let me get into my project. My project name is first plugin. Actually this is the third plugin, but I'm using the same project which I have created while creating the first plugin. This is the first plugin I have created, and this is the second plugin I have created. Now I'm going to create the newsletter plugin. Fine. This would be a repetitive task because this is the third plugin we are creating. So on the plugin folder, we need to create a folder called, you can give any name. So this name will be your plugin name. I'm going to give newsletter subscriber, and this plugin folder will have three important folder and one file. The one file will say it as index file, but actually the index file will have the same name as a plugin folder name. Fine. I have added css. It is not working. Let me get into the file explorer and create the folder from there. On the htdocs, my folder name, and on the wp content we have plugins. Inside the plugins I have created a folder called newsletter subscriber. And once I get into the newsletter subscriber, let me delete the old one. Once I get to the, we need to create some more folder. The first css, then js. We need to have include folder inc, and then one file. I'll create a file from the text editor, Visual Studio Code. Right click, new file. I will name it as of the folder name, but I will call it as an index file just to refer it. So in the coming minutes I will be referring this file as an index file. Please note, now we have an index file. Now what we need to do is, I'm going to create another file on the include. I'm going to name it as newsletter subscriber, the hyphen script. The newsletter subscriber is simply the folder name. Now I'm going to add a description on the index file. So I'm giving the name, the description, and version and author for the description of this plugin. So it should be on the index file or else it won't work. Now we need to get the script file here. So with the help of php function require once, we will use it, require once, and then it will, I'm passing the plugin directory path. It will give the plugin directory, and then inside in inc we have a file. So this is a file, I'm calling it. So in this file what we are going to do is, we will be loading the css and javascript. So let me create a css file and a javascript file called name main.js. Now we need to include these two files. So to include it, we have a special function. We call it as hooks in WordPress. So it is wp underscore nq underscore styles. So for that you have to create a function. and that function will call the file main.style.css and main.js, and it will give a name which is ns hyphen main hyphen style ns hyphen main has hyphen script, and this will be called on the hook wp-enqueue scripts. So if I refresh, and once the plugin is activated, let me activate the plugin first. On the plugin section, I'm going to activate it. Once it is activated, the style which we have added, the style and script will be loaded on the index file. So let me get into the index file, control U, and then the script file should be available here on the header file. Now this, you can see this style is also there and the script is also there. At present it will be blank. The main.js does not have the comment. Let me add the comment so that you can know that it is loading from JS file. So there are many types of plugins. So this plugin is specifically called a widget plugin. Now let's show our plugin. Sorry, let's show our widget plugin in this widget section. So you can see this is a widget section. Once I add it, you can see, let me add it. It says backend form. The backend form will be available here. Once I add and refresh it, so you see this is a place where the front end design will come. Fine. Now we are going to create a class. Let's get into our project. Let me get into the widget. So this is the place where our widget will show up. At present it won't show up because we need to create a class file and include it on the index file. So just to let me show you, at present it is not showing up. Our plugin is not showing up. And on the include file, let me create a file, plugin name hyphen class.php. So we are using a class, and I'm going to use a blog, and that blog has clear explanation of how to create widget plugin. I'll leave the blog details in the description, and I will be let me call the class file from the index file. And now, as I said, this is a blog. I'll leave the link in the description. So this is a class that we needed. So let's change the class name. NS is a prefix of our plugin newsletter, and this class need to be called from the index file, or we say we need to register the class. So this is the function that need to be registered, and the hook that we'll call is widgets init. The function name can be anything. You need to pass the class name inside a register widget and register underscore widget function. So we need to define the constructor. The constructor will give the description about the plugin on the widget page. The first one is the description, and the second one is the name. I'm going to name this as newsletter subscriber, and the description about the plugin. Fine. Now if you see, this is the place where your backend form will come on the form function, and there is another place where the front end design will come, and that function is widget. So in between there is update function, which is really important. I will discuss it in a minute. So if I refresh, your plugin should available. That says there is an error. Let me see what it is. I think we have used one extra curly bracket. If I refresh, that should work fine. Now our plugin is available, will be available. If you see, let me drag it and paste it on the sidebar section. And in the theme creation time, we have learned how to create the sidebar section. So the form, the echo is available in place of form. And again, if I view on the front end, so the place where the form will come, there is a text which you can say as demo text. And now in this section, we are going to create the form with the default value. So the title and the subject has a default value. So let's get into our project. So this is a place, as I said, where the form will come. So before creating the form, we need to create some variable that will hold the default values. So the title is a variable that holds. If it is empty, if it is not empty, then place the value. If it is empty, then give the default value. The translation is not needed. If it is not empty, insert the inserted value, or else give the default value. Likewise, let's add another HTML. So to add the HTML, we need to close the PHP. To just show you, I'm just going to add one field, and here you need to look for three functions. The first one is get field ID, and the second one is get field name, and the third one is escape attribute with the variable name. If you know HTML, it is really easy. The ID, the for and ID should have same code. For and ID will have the same code, and the name will have, name is really important for submission. And then we have escape attribute with the title. So if I refresh, there should be a text box with default field value. And now likewise, I have added many fields as receptionist, recipient and subject. So the same way as I said, get field name and get field ID. Now if I see, there are field that are default field. If we click on save, it won't get saved. But in this, like in this video, now we are going to see how to save the how to save the file, sorry, save the section input field. So if I click on save, it will save on the database, but we cannot see, but it will be saved. If I click on save, if I refresh, it is going to stay. Okay, let's get into our project. Now we have created the backend form. Let's create the front end form. So before creating front end form, I would like to save. If I click on save, the data vanishes. We don't want that. So for that, we have to use the update function. And that will check whether the value is filled or not. If it is filled, it will use the value. If it is not filled, then it will be blank. That's what I am creating on an array, and it will return the instance. Now let's check. Before checking, let me create the form field for the front end. Sorry, the widget function. Let me edit the widget function. So this will simply have the HTML. So we have a form, and we have the action that is referring to another file. I'm creating another file which is mailer.php on the inc file. We don't need a folder, we need file. Yes, we have saved it. So once I click on submit from the front end, the data will get into this file. So we have name, we have email, we have input field of recipient and input field of subject, and the button for submit. And these two values are coming from the input field which we have inserted. Now if I refresh, it should save the state. Type something and click on save, and even after a page refresh it should stay the same. Let's get into the front end, and if I type something, the front end is also available because we have updated the function widget. So I have used some default argument. So let me insert the title so that it will get the before title, after title. So if you have followed my WordPress theme, we you should know that we would be using before title, after title, before widget, after widget. That's the same thing I'm using. Now let's add jQuery in the WordPress, and let's add validation along with that. Once I click on it, we need to get the inserted value. Okay, let's get into our project. The first thing, let's add jQuery. So on the script.php, which is inside include, to include jQuery, WordPress will automatically understand what to do if you have second parameter of jQuery. Now that's done. This is just we need to do to include the jQuery in this plugin. Now we need to add the ajax code. So this is a form. This ID is the form. The data is in the serialized order. Now using the post, using it will get into the action which is mailer.php, and then the data. So this data will be going to that file, and let's open that file and make the output as name and email. Now I am adding some validation class. So this is a place where it will be dynamically added some text. If it is error, it will show the error as well. So now let's check. So the inserted name and email should show up on the success div, and that's what it is working. Fine. Now let's add some validation. The name in email we can get it. Now let's add some validation on the mailer.php. So this is what we are going to create now. If we type, and the mail will be sent. At present I'm using localhost, so it won't go. So if you are in live server, it will definitely work. It says my localhost is not initialized with HTMP. So let's check the validation. So before that, let me add the error class and the success class. This will be added by the jQuery after the validation. So if it is post, then get the values and sanitize it using WordPress function. And if it is empty, give the error. Please fill out all fields. Let's check whether the validation is working or not. So at present, if I click on submit, it has the HTML required. We need to remove the HTML required to check our validation. So let me remove the required from the input field. You can see we are getting the validation. I think the color is not available. I have hard refreshed it and now it's working. And that's all for this video. Get the source code in the description. And now this is the mail function. If you are in the server, it should work and it should give proper message. At present we are in localhost, so it won't work.